Hi everyone, and welcome back to Top Ranked. Today we're diving into one of the darkest and most chilling topics of all-time serial killers. Throughout history, there have been individuals so ruthless and cruel that they've left an indelible mark on our collective memory. In this video, we'll explore the top 10 most ruthless serial killers of all time. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our terrifying content. At number 10 we have Ed Gein, a killer whose horrific acts inspired many famous horror movie characters, including Norman Bates and Leatherface. Gein not only murdered his victims, but he also used parts of their bodies to create macabre objects like lamps and clothing. While his known victim count isn't high, the brutality of his crimes makes him unforgettable. Aileen Wuornos, one of the few female serial killers to gain notoriety, murdered 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990. She claimed they were all attackers, but the details of her crimes paint her as one of the most ruthless killers ever. Her story inspired the movie Monster, which told the tragic and horrifying tale of her life and murders. Known as the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez terrorized Los Angeles in the 1980s. Ramirez would break into homes in the dead of night and murder his victims in brutal fashion. Obsessed with Satanism, he often left satanic symbols at crime scenes. He was convicted of 14 murders, though it's likely his real victim count was much higher. At number 7 we have John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown, because he dressed up as a clown to entertain children at parties. But behind the clown mask hid a true monster. Gacy murdered at least 33 boys and young men, many of whom he buried under his house. His double life as a respectable citizen and a killer shocked the world. Jeffrey Dahmer is one of the most notorious serial killers in modern history, responsible for the deaths of 17 young men between 1978 and 1991. His crimes involved not just murder, but also acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. Dahmer would lure his victims, drug them, and then kill them in horrifying ways, keeping parts of their bodies as trophies. Ted Bundy was a charming and intelligent killer, but behind his outward appeal was a true monster. Bundy confessed to killing over 30 young women in the 1970s, though the real number could be much higher. His charisma allowed him to lure victims without raising suspicion, making him one of the most terrifying killers in history. Pedro Alonso Lopez, known as the Monster of the Andes, is one of the most prolific serial killers in history. He confessed to killing over 300 young girls in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru during the 1970s. His ability to evade capture for so long and the sheer number of victims makes him one of the most ruthless killers ever. Known as the Butcher of Rostov, Andrei Chikatilo was responsible for at least 52 murders in the Soviet Union between 1978 and 1990. His victims were mostly children and women, and his crimes involved extreme violence, including acts of mutilation and cannibalism. His ability to hide his nature for years made him even more terrifying. At number 2, we have one of the most famous serial killers of all time, Jack the Ripper. This mysterious killer terrorized London in 1888, brutally murdering at least 5 women and mutilating their bodies. The identity of Jack the Ripper was never discovered, and his crimes remain one of the greatest mysteries in history. At the top of our list is H.H. Holmes, notorious for constructing a murder castle in Chicago in the late 1800s. Holmes lured his victims, mostly young women, to his hotel, which was designed as a maze of secret rooms, death traps, and torture chambers. He was convicted of 27 murders, though the real number of his victims could be far higher. Those were the top 10 most ruthless serial killers in history. Each of them left a chilling legacy that still shocks and fascinates the world. Which one of these stories shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more dark and terrifying lists.